first off, I wanted to start with everyone just going down the line, talking a little bit about who they are and how they first got involved with gaming. Why don't we start with you, Cupquake?
So I am Tiffany, also known as Cupquake, and been gaming my whole life, but started YouTube in 2010.
Wow.
I'm Lizzie, also known as LD Shy Lady. I regret picking that name. I'm from England, actually, so I traveled all the way here for VidCon, and I do gaming videos as well.
Great. I'm Neha. I've been in video for a really long time. I'm probably older than all of you, but I direct a team of video professionals at GameSpot.com. We just had E3 last year. Mary Kish, who's been doing an excellent job of hosting. Can we give it up for Mary, by the way, just really quick? She's a video producer and host on my team, and I'm very excited to be here.
I'm Jamin. I run a video game arts and culture company called Killscreen, and I used to write about games for the Wall Street Journal.
Yay!
Yay! I feel like that was like the proper. I'm Erin, also known as Aurelian Online. Like Tiffany, I've been gaming since I was like this tall, and I started doing YouTube videos primarily around Minecraft in 2012.
Awesome.
Yay!
Woo. Okay, so I'm going to take it back. I'm going to take it back to when we were kids. I think a lot of us, that's when we got into gaming initially. So growing up, we had a lot of ideals. There was, you know, Princess Peach. There was Samus from Metroid. There was Lara Croft. Are any of these people that you feel that really resonated with you and inspired you as a gamer?
Anyone?
I think growing up, I probably related more to Princess Peach. Kind of, you know, loved the pink and the princessness, but there wasn't so many female characters. I always chose the female characters.
Yeah.
You did?
Always. I did.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You were mentioning something about Lara Croft.
Yeah, so I used to play basically whatever my dad would play. We played a lot of like Doom and Hexen and stuff, which don't really have females in at all. So one of the first female protagonists that I played as was probably Lara Croft, and she was like super badass, just as good as any guy. So she was probably my first taste of like a strong female in gaming.
That's great. How about you?
Yeah. I have a little bit of a different background. I didn't start out, I mean, I console gamed with my brother. We played, like, we had the Sega Genesis and we got an N64 and we had all of that. But we primarily did a lot of tabletop gaming, and so I was just whoever I wanted to be, right? So if I wanted to be like a Hydra, I was a Hydra. If I wanted to be a girl, I was a girl. If not, I wasn't. So I don't think that I had any of those, like, had to pick between one or the other. In fact, the first like strong female character that I fell in love with was in Fable 2. And it was because I could be whatever I wanted to be. Could make this female character, and if I wanted to, you know, put all my focus on intellect, I could, but I just made a big Hoss character and just like wielded this big sword and killed everything, but yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, as a guy, I think a lot of times young men take for granted that the default character is often a male. There's a study that was making the rounds on Twitter this week that at E3, like when you were given a choice, it was something like 7 times as many of the choices were given to male characters.
Wow.
As opposed to, so in the event that you're playing a game in which, you know, you're given a character whose life you're supposed to become the vast majority of the time, it's still just the default as a guy. So as a young guy, I wasn't thinking about that because I wasn't presented with the idea that somebody wasn't me. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing how often I think men don't realize that for many young women, there's not a choice there.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you guys this. Like, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I'm playing a game, I don't know if it matters so much to me that I'm playing as like a male versus female. Do you guys feel that way as well, or do you think that you have like identification issues when there isn't a female protagonist that you can play as?
I mean, they didn't add female players into like the Call of Duty games until one of the most recent ones that came out, and I started playing it, you know, Call of Duty 2, and I was kind of happy to play as a male until a few years later I was like, oh, there's no female characters. I mean, it kind of makes sense because there weren't that many female soldiers in World War II or whatever, but it didn't really ruin the game for me that there wasn't a female, but it was nice that they added it later on when it fit with the story. It was kind of a cool twist to it, but I was happy to play as a male or a female.
Right. How about you?
I like choosing the female characters if they're available, but if, you know, for example, if I'm playing Overwatch and I want to learn a new character, I don't put any restraints on only playing the female characters. It's like, just keep it open, but I do prefer just being the female. I don't know why.
Because they have the cuter outfits.
They do.
Yeah. I played World of Warcraft for many years, and I always chose to play a female character. I just felt more comfortable. I wanted to represent myself. My human character looked like me in the game, and it was a chance for me to represent myself in like this magical element that I couldn't be in real life. But I did notice that any time that a guy friend of mine or even myself played a female character, one of the first questions was, "Oh, are you a girl? Are you a real girl?" I'm a real person, yeah. But I mean, I just chose to pick the character that I most identified with and that I felt like I could be. It wasn't because I preferred one or the other. I just wanted to be like a warlock, and I couldn't do that in real life.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting with a lot of games, whether if it's like Dragon Age or even Fallout that came out. I definitely like wanted my character to like look like me or resemble me in some way.
Yeah.
For me, there's something about like skin tone which says something to me. So it's really nice to have that option. And I think that having these games where you can customize the way you look in such fine detail is really, really cool. Like, isn't that just it's a great time to be alive? It's amazing.
Yeah, they just did a new update for The Sims. I don't know if you guys know now, and the gender options on The Sims now is insane. Like,
really?
They took off all gender relation in the game. So like you can prefer masculine or feminine, but you can have a character who is masculine but prefers to wear like feminine clothing, and you can choose even like, can that sim get someone pregnant? Can they get other people's pregnant? Like the gender line now in The Sims is gone, and you can completely customize it to the way that you live your life. Just like we don't have one or two genders.
Yeah.
Like a multitude now, and you can represent yourself. And it's like the first game that's ever done that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
That is really cool, and I mean, so we're fresh off of E3, which was last week, and I mean, I would say that this is probably the second year now that we've really had a strong E3 with female protagonists, whether if it's Horizon Zero Dawn, or if it's Overwatch. I don't know if all of you guys are playing Overwatch, but there's so many different types of female characters that you can also play as. Like, how do you think that this is going to affect like some of the younger gamers out there that are playing games now that have these options versus maybe when we were younger? I mean, we had a few. We had Lara Croft. We had Samus. Like, we didn't really have that. So what do you think that's going to do to the way that younger people game?
I mean,
especially as females, I guess.
If you look at like so my daughter will be 7 next month, right?
Oh,
and
wow.
even like 4 years ago, when she was just starting to play Minecraft at 3 years old and whatever, you had one character and it was Steve, right? And a lot of the games that were more kid-friendly or that were colorful didn't have a lot of female protagonists. And she would go to school like I think it was last year in kindergarten, a little boy told her, "Oh, well, you can't play games because that's for boys," right? But now, even Minecraft has 2 characters. There's Steve and Alex, right? And she's watched me play Overwatch, and her favorite character is Diva because it's pink and it's like a girl who drives a big robot and stuff. So even now, like the kids that are growing up have these examples when someone says like, "Oh, well, you can't play a game because it's for boys." Like, well, no, because look there's a Diva and there's an Alex in Minecraft and there's all these different characters that we didn't really have that growing up, and now they do. So it's becoming something that it's just like, "Oh, you play games? Cool, what game?" Me too.
That's great. How did you guys, I guess like, how have you dealt with, I think that all of us have had that moment in gaming where there's like that reveal of like, "Oh, you're a girl?" Like, "Oh, what?" Like, do you guys have any interesting anecdotes about that, or how you've, gone through that growing up?
I think I play a lot of Counter-Strike, and people on that are kind of rude to girls, and so usually I just try and keep it a secret and try not to make it really obvious that I'm a girl, but when they do notice, they're like, "Oh, it's a girl, huh?" It's happening, quite a lot of games. Aurelian was saying in World of Warcraft, people are like, "Are you really a girl?" kind of thing. I think girls, there are so many girls that play games now. I don't know the statistic, but isn't it like 50% are
It's like over
gamers?
that, actually. Yeah, I was reading something recently.
Why is it so hard to believe that there's a girl playing World of Warcraft or Counter-Strike? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a woman running for president, so like, but
Yeah.
God forbid, it's like outside of the realm of possibilities.
I think it's because a lot of it too, if you look at, it's not just that, right? Like everybody has a sister or a mom even who plays, games on her, iPad or phone or whatever it is. But a lot of the problems that I've noticed is because like the media has a hard time representing gamers like in commercials where they're like, oh, like this chip is like the chip of gamers, and it's like 4 14-year-old dudes sitting in their basement. Like that is not even close to representative of like the gaming, society as a whole. But I think a lot of times it just has to do with the fact that people aren't used to seeing that in traditional media, that they don't represent females in gaming, and even like brand campaigns that all of us have worked on, it'll be 30 people and they'll pick 1 girl or 2 girls, and it's like that's not even accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's always like this whole thing about marketing to girl gamers means just, oh yeah, just like make it in pink. But that's not what it is. I mean, no offense to right? Yeah. I mean, no offense to people who like pink.
I love it. Listen, I'm a rocket, but that doesn't encompass like the entirety of all female gamers. Like, I'm not gonna argue if you want to give me something in pink, but like.
Yeah. No, and I do too, but it's not that simple. You know what I mean? Like, we're whole humans. We're not just like a gamer that likes pink.
Yeah.
So I think that like I would love to ask you guys. I mean, as people who game a lot, like, what are some trends that you're hoping to see more of for new games that are coming out, and what are things that you see now that you really like? I mean, we've talked about Overwatch, of course, and more female characters is the obvious answer, but what are some other things that you think would make people feel more included and part of the community?
I wish I knew. I don't know.
I had a friend of mine say last night, we were talking about Overwatch was a great example, and she was saying that the thing that she liked about Overwatch was that people were commenting on the gender of the character, and so instead of like pointing out like, oh, that person playing Widowmaker is a boy or girl, they'd be like, oh, Widowmaker's behind us, she's gonna get us, blah, 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 and instead of referring to the gender of the gamer, they would refer to the gender of the character that was being played, and so it didn't matter who was behind that, it mattered what the character was instead. And
it levels the playing field a little bit, doesn't it? Like it almost seems to like, it doesn't matter who the person is behind the character, it's about the character and the skills of the character.
Right.
Yeah. That is really cool. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
I think, well, one of the games I play the most is Minecraft, and there's been so many more females playing it over the past maybe 3 or 4 years compared to when it first started. It was kind of not well known, and it wasn't really out there, but once it was out there and people knew about it, so many more females kind of latched onto it and really wanted to play it. So it's a game games like that are really not inclusive to any gender, that anyone can play it kind of thing. I want to see more of those.
True. Yeah, and I think, you guys are all like public figures in gaming. That's never easy. Obviously there's, when you post a video to YouTube or now Facebook, I mean, there's comments, there's people who say things. How do you guys deal with criticism and keep your head up throughout it all?
I think I just try to focus on the positives. There's always going to be negatives. There's always going to be people who don't agree with what you're doing or think what you're doing is stupid, but just try to focus on the positives and the people who do love your content and your work, and hopefully that's what I've done.
I think it's important to remember that you can't please everyone.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to like you, even outside of the internet. You being super nice is going to annoy someone, and that's their problem, it's not yours. But I mean, it's the same on the internet. You can be the best person that you can be and who you want to be, and there's always going to be someone that doesn't like you, and you just have to be kind of almost comfortable with that and still focus on the positive, like you said.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that like, just because we're female doesn't mean that we're the only gamers who have people throw insults at us or that they'll criticize you for something. I think it happens to every gamer, especially every public gamer, and I'm sure that you can probably speak to your gaming experiences as well, that being female in a seemingly, which makes us a minority, which we're not, but like seemingly that's the first thing that someone can touch on to say like, oh, well, you're a girl, right? But all of my male friends that are in the gaming space as well have had somebody say something about something to criticize them as well, right? I think it's really important to note that like just because you're a female doesn't mean that you're going to get criticism where a guy gamer would not. Like a male gamer will get it as well. It's just being able to recognize the fact that sometimes people are just going to criticize you for something, and that's the easiest thing that they can throw, right? And if that's the easiest insult you want to throw at me, like, oh, you're a girl, oh, okay, like I can't help that you're upset about that, right? And you just have to, like they said, go with the positives and look at people for the content that they do enjoy and try to pull out anything that's constructive.
Yeah.
But like telling me that I'm a girl, okay, yeah.
And then like, I'm going to start the Q&A, so please make sure to tweet #gender in gaming if you have questions out there. We'd be happy to answer them. So what are ways that you think that people, maybe males, could be a little bit more constructive in the way they comment? I'm going to look at you for this a little bit, just because you seem to be a lovely gentleman, and you're a gentleman online as well. So what tips do you have to make it a little bit of a more inclusive, open, accepting place?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, it's funny, you mentioned, I think one of the differences between the ways that women are insulted online versus the way that men are insulted online, it's very rare for guys to get insulted for their gender. Like that is not, it's like, oh, well, you're a guy. It's like, you suck because you did whatever. And there was a study that actually just came out, and they found that young men would go after young women when they were losing, because that was the only thing that they had, was like, I've lost to someone, the only thing I have in my arsenal is to try to cut them down on behalf of their gender. I think one of the most important things is, gender equality is not, it's not just, I think a lot of times when we have like panels like this, the perception is like, oh, this is an issue for women to sort of like figure out and like deal with, or create support networks. All these things are obviously incredibly important, but it's very rare that men take responsibility for their participation in this. And I think one of the biggest problems is that a lot of guys don't do anything. Like they will hear things that happen online, or they have friends who are making fun of someone, and they don't intervene, because intervening is really hard, and it's easier just to like not do anything at all. In fact, there's like a name for it. Psychologists call it the bystander effect. When someone's being picked on or something bad is happening to another person, the tendency we typically have is just to totally freeze up and to not assist someone in need. So in a lot of ways, I think obviously the work that you all are doing in terms of like representing your identities as young women who play games is incredibly important. But I think that this conversation that's happening on stage now needs to be happening with every young man on the planet about like what your role is to play, how you can help build a better universe. And for me, it was like being an ally, right? So how do we draw using the microphone I had with PBS and with Killscreen to try to shine a light on the things that are happening in this universe. But it's something that everyone has to deal with. It's not just like, this is a women's issue, they'll figure it out. It really is.
It's a human issue.
Yeah,
it's
very
an
much
issue
so.
for all of us. And I think that's a really good point, that it's not just about us sitting up here speaking about being women in gaming. It's about having the support and having that environment where more and more people feel comfortable joining us, really, like not being scared to be a woman in gaming. And I think that's always been like my standpoint on it. You have a daughter, so like, what do you tell her? Like, what is, like, is she a gamer? It sounds like she's a gamer, and like, how do you coach her? How do you make her feel like, this is a great place for her to be?
I mean, I think she has the benefit of having somebody who works in the industry, and someone who like not only works as like a content creator online, but I actually work for Twitch full time, and so I have a career in the gaming space. And I've been fortunate in that every scenario that I've been put in, my job, my career, everyone's been fairly accepting, right? And so I think that it's becoming the point where having someone who isn't accepting is now the exception and not the rule, right? Because gender in gaming is a huge issue, but I think the larger issue is like inclusivity as a whole. Like even if you're a male, if you're not, if you have a different sexual orientation or a different religion or whatever, like my basic message to her is you just need to accept people and not based on any given like label or tag, right? And so I think that she's just got the benefit of seeing that my guy friends, I'm the female in a group of 20 men, I'm the only female, but all of those guys, anytime someone says like, oh, she's ruining the boys club, they're like, no, she's not, shut up and sit down. Like, my guy friends are very open and accepting about that, and they're not just sitting by and like watching people be jerks online. And so she's being raised in an inclusive, welcoming environment, and so she's not going to have that experience. And yeah, the one little boy in her class was like, oh, only, you know, boys play video games, and she was like, have you seen my mom's YouTube channel? Have you seen LD Shadow Lady? Like, she knows who all of these girls are, and it's not uncommon for her. Like, she looked at them like they were dumb, and she came home, she's like, this guy's dumb, Mom. Like, yeah, he's kind of an idiot. Yeah, you're right.
That's great. So we do have one question here from Xander, and he asks, have you ever been shamed that you played as a male/female when you're the opposite gender?
Ashamed?
Like, have you ever played a male and been ashamed that you're playing a male when you're a female?
I mean, in one of the latest World of Warcraft expansions, they added pandas, and there was a male panda and a female panda, and I decided to play as the male panda because it looked cuter. And at first it felt a little bit weird because like you, I'd always played female characters, and I was like, this is a little odd because people might think I'm a boy, but then I was like, it doesn't matter because nobody talks to me anyway. But I guess I did find it kind of weird. I wasn't ashamed, but it was a bit weird, but then I was just like, I'm just playing a character, it's not me anyway.
I've never experienced.
You've never played as a male in any game?
No, I have. I've never like felt ashamed.
Right. I don't know why I would. I guess maybe have you played as a female and you felt ashamed of playing a female?
Yeah, I mean, I guess typically I'm in the opposite circumstance where like the default is usually a male, which makes it more notable. Like you do have to go in a lot of ways. I think as a guy, you have to like go out of your way to make a conscious choice. I mean, I think what you're saying about Overwatch is interesting in that that's an opportunity. If you compare that to like Team Fortress 2, for example, where there might be one woman in the game.
Yep.
I do think it's interesting with a game like Overwatch where it's like class and skills based, and so you're going to pick based on what type of role. So if you play support versus being a tank, that's much more of like a game mechanics decision. We're like, oh, I'm just going to pick that character because that's the type of style that I play. But yeah, no, I think when I was a kid, for example, I think there would be much more. It wasn't something you would probably talk about with your friends, like, oh, I'd much rather be playing as like Zelda than as Link, right? That's not something that you would probably like broadcast. So I'm hoping that changes over time. It shouldn't be so much of an exception, I think, particularly for young boys.
Yeah. Another question that we have here is from Kate. Interesting. She says, do you feel like female hair, makeup, diet channels make it harder for lady gamers to get credibility?
Female hair and makeup channels?
Yeah, like fashion channels. I don't think so.
I watch a lot of hair and makeup channels. I love that stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I love watching. I actually have one. I love that type of stuff too.
I don't think there's anything wrong with doing both. I think you can appreciate health and makeup and beauty, and also really, really into gaming. I mean, a lot of guys like exercise or sport or whatever that is, and also gaming. And it's not like sport ruins gaming for guys because you can do both.
Yeah,
so why not?
I think what's really interesting too is a lot of males are now doing fashion, beauty, makeup channels. So it's like, pretty soon, hopefully, there won't be any, issue with gender at all in any category.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of mindset behind that is like, oh, well, those types of channels make it seem that girls have to adhere to one type of stereotype, like, oh, you're a girl, so you have to be this way, right? Well, so if I'm a girl and I'm a gamer, does that mean that I have to be like a tomboy because I like gaming? Like, no, I can be a gamer and my whole entire YouTube channel is covered in rainbow thumbnails and like glitter and stuff. Like, that doesn't make me any less legitimate as a gamer. Like, I think that type of mindset is a very old mindset, and I think we're moving into a new mindset where it's like everyone is gaming. Like, everybody has a gaming channel. Tons of popular YouTubers that you guys know here that run lifestyle and beauty channels have secondary gaming channels because everybody plays games. Like, it doesn't affect not to me anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. I mean, again, I think it's about seeing women as complete individuals who may like makeup and may like games and may like food and like just like a lot of different things. And I know, like, if you guys are familiar obviously with like someone like Justine, of course, like she has several different channels. She has a gaming channel, she has a lifestyle channel, like she has different things that she does because she's a whole human that likes different things, you know. So
yeah, they just reflect her interests, I
yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Someone asked, what's a, actually, sorry, I think I lost it. trying to find it again here. Oh, Nutella Ella asks, what's a game that you think that could use more female characters? Also says, OMG, I love you all so much.
We love you too.
Oh, a game with more female.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
I don't know, I can't think of any games.
More females?
Yeah, what game do you think could use more females? Or you wish you could play as a female?
I think a lot of them have female characters now.
Yeah. Even like Gears of War has a female now.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think there is a distinction though between like having female characters and being able to play as female characters. Like
Yeah.
Uncharted, like that
Yeah.
one for me is like, you know, again, it's interesting. Game developers spend so much time in like in Borderlands, like increasing the number of guns, but something like The Sims is treated as like kind of like a novelty in terms of like changing the way we think about gender. So it's funny, if game developers spent as much time as they did on like glistening water and graphics as they did on like, hey, it'd be really cool if you could play as any one of these characters, I think we'd be in a much better place.
I think maybe just being able to customize your character any way you want, so not necessarily to be male or female, but maybe you want to change the skin tone or change the hair, the way it looks, and especially if you want to kind of play a character that resembles yourself, then to just have a lot of customization in that would be good. But then there are some games, I can't think of one off the top of my head, maybe like GTA or something, where the main character is like this gangster, and it's like, I don't know if that would work if that was, you know, it's kind of the character has a whole story behind him and it's that guy, and it's hard to build a story like that around someone that can look any way. So there are some games which need a character, but that's okay, and then it would be good to have customization in some games though.
Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking the same thing. I was trying to think of like games, but a lot of the like story-driven games, there has to be a backstory. So some of those backstories wouldn't make sense if you subbed the male character out for a female character, but one of the ones who's done that really well is Minecraft Story Mode. They have a character who, isn't there a character named Alex? Like the main character has like a super...
Oh, Jesse?
Jesse.
It could be a male or a female.
Yeah, and so Jesse is like a male or a female. They hired 2 voice actors. Like there's 2 different paths that run the same story with the same lines, and you can be male or female, and there's like different skin tones you can pick. And so you can play as Jesse, who relates to you, but it's like the story doesn't change based on the fact that they're a male or a female, which I appreciate, right? Because it's not like I'm gonna play a female character and like most female games, like I have to fall in love with some dude like halfway through the story, right? Like Jesse's just Jesse and the storyline doesn't change.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I appreciate games like that where like it is actual story driven, and you can intersect gender and race and whatever, and it just is the game.
Yeah.
I do feel like the vast majority of games that I play, like the gender, like even when there's no choice, the gender of the character really does not truly mean anything. Like maybe it changes like the romantic lead, but like I think if you really sit down and interrogate most of the games that we play, it's very rare that like the gender of the character is like, oh, it has to be, it couldn't be any other way. I think if you really sat down and thought about it, I don't think it would matter at all. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. Like, if it is a character-driven thing, like I think, GTA is actually one of like my favorite franchises of all time, and I actually really like playing as a guy. Like, I think it's really fun and interesting to kind of see. I know that there's a lot of talk about like how women are represented in those games, and I understand that, but it's part of the story. Or like, you know, South Park is another good example of when that. You know, when the Stick of Truth came out, there was, oh, like, why can't you be a female? It's like, there's a certain experience there of being a male South Park character, and that's the narrative that and I mean, the game devs did say that if we wanted to have that female perspective, we would have had to create another game. Like, it'd be double the development, which isn't like a bad thing, but it's just like, it's a reality of how game development works as well, to just like, to share the story that they want to share, or give you the narrative that they want to do, you know? Someone asked that, like, has being a female gamer, has that ever come to your advantage with your YouTube channels and with your building of your brand and being a gamer as well?
I feel like
I think it does have some advantages. Well, maybe like back when we started, I'm not sure about now. It's just because it wasn't really seen. It wasn't too common. So, and definitely in games I've experienced, you know, when people have found out that I'm a real girl in IRL, like they would accept me into their guilds quicker, and I wouldn't have to do normal things that guy gamers would have to do to be able to get in their raid group.
I think those things happen without you having to go out there and make it happen. It just kind of happens. So it's not as if you're taking advantage of it and you're not like going out there and saying, hey, I'm a girl, add me to your guild. You're just like, hey, I want to join your guild. And they're like, that's a girl. We'll invite her. You know, it's
diversity. We need to add some
It is an advantage. It is an advantage, but it's not, you know, it's not something we purposely did. The same happened to me. Like, I've found advantages as being a female, especially on YouTube. People don't really see that many, especially when we started, there weren't that many female gamers, so it kind of caught people's eye to be like, there's a girl playing, maybe I'll check her out. Is she as good as the guys? I don't know. And then they click it to find out kind of out of curiosity.
Yeah. Same thing that they've said. There's been certain activations where like our brand deals that I've had where they've been like, we need a girl. And then like you're kind of filling that role. And then there's been times where that's happened where I felt really bad about it, where like I've walked in and I had a huge activation with a big company and I walked in and they're like, oh cool, our token girl is here. And I'm like, wow, cool, that makes me feel great. So you didn't even really want me here. Like, and so there's times where like, yeah, it plays to your advantage where you can get it. And then there's times where it may play to your advantage and you may feel really crappy about it because they may discredit any of your work by like, oh, we just needed an X girl. Like any girl could be put into this spot and you're here, so go play. Like, I mean, I think there's positive and negative, but like I was saying before, like I think that there are certain male gamers who face the same thing. They have like their thing that makes them like a niche, and so they get plugged into spot because they fill a role as like, you hit this minority, or we need to have this type of person in here. So, I mean, I think it happens to the best of us, but like he was saying, it just is easier to plug in gender as like, that's your defining thing, that like you're a girl. So
I think we've all sort of felt like the token girl at some point, you know?
Oh, sure.
I mean, absolutely. Like you're that perspective, you're that person who's either in the room or, you know, working with the brand or whatever it is. But again, I think that there is power in that as well, and I think it's about finding that power or that advantage of being the only female or the person that can carry out whatever it is that needs to be done as well. And thank you, Laura, for that question. That was great. Andy asks, what does your family think of you being a professional gamer? Do they ever gender stereotype, or are they always accepting?
For me, my parents have always been really accepting. I think I've just been really lucky to have super supportive parents. As long as I got my degree, that's what I said. They were just very supportive with anything that I wanted to do. And as long as, you know, I'm giving my all to it, then they were for it. So I think,
that's good.
Yeah.
My dad was the one that got me into gaming, so he's always been like, yeah, here's some games, and he was always trying to get me to play games with him, so he was always really supportive, and I don't think he ever really thought it was weird for a girl to be playing games, because we didn't play that many online. It was mostly local solo campaigns and stuff, so I doubt he knew the demographic of the game. Like, he didn't know that there weren't that many females playing it. But my mom just doesn't understand at all. I don't think she ever will. I think she thinks it's cool, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, my dad was the same way. My dad was the one who got me into tabletop gaming, and so he thinks it's like super rad that I've been able to make a career out of the stuff that we used to do, and he geeked out over the fact that I got to play like the new Star Trek VR game at E3, and he was like, God, you have the coolest job ever, and he was so jealous. I think it's funnier how my brother reacts to it, because my brother always, you know, he was older than me, and we were the two competitive kind of gamers in the house against each other, and my brother was like the super popular cool dude, like growing up in school, and I was like the really shy, kind of nerdy kid. And so now that I have this job, like my brother is now not as cool as I am. And so like now I've like held that over his head a little bit and been like, now what about it? So it's fun to like see him try live streaming and see him do his own YouTube videos and stuff, because like now I have this experience that he didn't have, and now his like little sister got to beat up on him a little bit. So, but he's proud. It's cool.
Yeah, I think for me growing up, it was very much the influence of my brother. That's how I got into games. Him and I used to play Nintendo together, and then you know he was the one who would like take me to comic book conventions and just get me very interested in this whole world. I'm also a Trekkie as well, so right there with you. Yeah, God, the VR Star Trek game. Oh my God.
Right?
Oh my God.
It was so good.
I was geeking out so hard that I think I like freaked out the Ubisoft guys. They were just like, you are way too nerdy for this. Like, you're like.
So good. We had in our like group, one of the guys that was with us was like super into it. And so, you know, if you guys haven't played it, it's like being on the bridge of one of the Star Trek ships. It's called the Aegis. And so we were on it, and the guy who was playing the captain, who was like running the game, he'd be like, hey, raise shields. And he was like, yes, captain, raising shields. And he was so into it. It was like the best. I cried a little when I left. I'm like, hey, all my dreams are coming true. I'm so happy.
It's interesting, like, I mean, Star Trek's interesting, right? Because it's like this like future place where like money and gender and like all of these things don't matter anymore. On that note, Becky asks, do you think we should add characters with unclear genders to avoid stereotyping or sexism? For example, Frisk from Undertale.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know, I think you should have the option to be whatever. I really do think that Dragon Age does such a good job at this, like where you can really be, or even like World of Warcraft or what, like you can be whatever you want to be, you know, and I think that giving those options is probably the best. I think we've all sort of said something along those lines.
I think the important thing is that design choices should matter. Like for people who are making games, like every choice should be thought through. And I think the problem is right now that like the choices that get labored about, the ones that that people spend time doing, sort of fall in this bucket of, you know, I don't know, is there going to be an end boss, or what's the backstory of the character, versus the question about whether or not the character is going to have a gender, is a character going to be, you know, I think every choice needs to matter, and I think that's the bigger story there.
Yeah, and so the one question that keeps coming up, and I mean a lot of people have asked it, is for advice. Like, how do you have a YouTube channel or, you know, a Twitch channel, and how do you get through some of the rougher times? What advice do you have for women who want to be part of this industry?
I think just expect that it comes with the industry, so don't take anything to heart, you know. Also, like having some friends who do the same thing, who can relate. You can like talk things off of each other and like laugh it off.
It's kind of sad that you had to say, oh, you had to expect it. Like, I wish we didn't, but that is the truth.
It is. I think that just comes in general with like putting yourself out there and like being, you know, in front of thousands of people. It's just people are gonna want to voice their opinions and want to say mean things because it's a computer. So yeah, I lost my train of thought.
What advice do you have?
I think like she was saying, like it comes with the territory, and not just comes with the territory of being a female. Like anytime male, female, whatever, puts themselves out on a public forum, in a public place, you're opening yourselves up to that, right? And so if it wasn't a gender thing and it's, you know, a man, right, it'd be age or height or weight or religion or sexual orientation or something. Like, if someone's going to just be a negative person, they're going to find something to be negative about.
Yeah.
And I think, like she was saying, just being able to like separate that and be like, it's one thing if someone would be like, you were bad at this game because you didn't use XYZ skill at XYZ time and you're a girl. Like, okay, well, remove the girl part and just give me the constructive criticism. Like, I can piece that part out. But it's hard. It's hard to have people come to you and say, you're bad because X, Y, and Z, right? Or, oh, people don't like me because I'm a girl. No, they don't. They're just being negative, and that's the only thing that they can use, right? And so I think being able to just separate someone who is giving you poor constructive criticism versus someone who's just being mean, like, you have to be able to be good at that in order to continue doing it without getting your feelings hurt all the time.
I mean, the only thing I would add, you know, as a guy, I think if you're like looking at the channels that you subscribe to and they're all dudes, you probably need to interrogate why that might be. There are lots of like wonderful women who are hosting shows, and so I think that's just like as a guy, like you need to look when you're looking on, whether it's on Twitch or YouTube or whatever, like if you feel like there's an imbalance there, and I suspect for a lot of young men that's probably the case, you might want to ask yourself why, and since there are a lot of like wonderful women who are doing stuff out there, you can be an ally by supporting them and finding someone who's going to cater to your particular interests. So you need to do the extra work to make sure that there's some balance in your life as well.
Yeah, I think that's all great advice. I guess my advice would be just stay true to yourself and stick to your guns and not really pay attention. I mean, there's just haters gonna hate, right? Like haters gonna hate, and you just gotta brush that off, shake it off, as this panel says, and just keep on going, because I think it's really important. Like the more of us that there are that are doing this, the more that I'm hoping that like you guys out there are inspired to join us on Twitch, on YouTube, and become content creators and become people who are passionate about games and want to talk about them, because the more of the louder our voices are, the less it's going to be an issue, I'd say. Yeah. There's a question in the audience, it looks like. I don't know if there's a
floating mic somewhere.
Floating mic
they have
anywhere.
One.
Can you shout it?
Or maybe
We
just
can
come
hear
up to
you.
the front or something.
Yeah, do you want to come up to the front maybe?
Come right up.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, my
There we
God.
go. There it is. Yay.
So some people on YouTube hide their genders even though they're really popular and lots of people ask them to show their gender. Do you think that's because they don't want to risk getting abused for their gender?
I think there are a lot of reasons why people hide multiple facets of there are a lot of YouTubers who never show their face. There are a lot of YouTubers who don't want to show their gender, and I don't know that it necessarily has anything to do with the fact that they're embarrassed to be a female or a male or ashamed of that, but you do forget when you start a YouTube channel that you give up a lot of your personal life. We have all been pretty open about our personal lives on our YouTube channel, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you're like, I wish people didn't know everything that goes on in my life, because it puts a lot of pressure on you and it opens you up to criticism, right? So it may not even be that they're embarrassed of their gender or their face or whatever. They may just really value their privacy, and the less information they put out, the less they're inviting people to give their opinions about their life when they don't know the full situation. That would be my take.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I think maybe they want to shift the focus from, oh, what gender are they? These people are always asking them. Maybe they want to say, kind of make a statement that it doesn't matter what gender I am, you're watching my content, keep the focus on that, that's all that matters. It doesn't, why does your curiosity of my gender matter? But I think it's tricky because people are always going to be curious, people always want to know. It's like celebrities, you kind of want to know everything about them. You want to know when their birthday is, you want to know who they're dating, and it's kind of a celebrity culture almost on YouTube, which it does make privacy a big issue.
Yeah, and I know that I've worked with several hosts too who they're engaged, they're married, they have family lives and things like that, and I mean they won't wear their rings on camera, they won't share that because that's just something that's very private to them. It's their relationship. It's just something that they want to keep out of the public eye. And I think now with YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, everything, we're putting so much of ourselves out there that it makes sense to have that line of privacy. So I think maybe that is why some people hide their gender or obscure their faces or any of those other things. It's just they just want to keep that little bit of privacy for themselves, which I think we can all understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Why do you, wait, I forgot what I was going to say. Darn it.
It's okay.
That's all right.
Got it. We're always here.
Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you.
Oh, there's one more right here, it looks like, right up front.
So this is less of a question, but I have a friend whose name is Olivia, and she has really short hair, and she looks a lot like a boy, and she'll play sports with the other boys, but then when they find out she's a girl, they won't want to play with her anymore, and she's learned to deal with that, and I still wonder how she deals with that. But have any of you ever experienced something like that, where they didn't know your gender, and when they found it out, then they shunned you, or they wouldn't collab with you or something?
I don't think I've ever had anything that bad, but that sounds really awful, and I'm so sad that that's actually happened to your friend.
Yeah. That's pretty unfortunate. Like I said before, and I think we all agree, we've had mainly positive experiences.
Yeah.
Like there's minor frustrations, like I wish this game represented females in a better light, or I wish I had more options here. But in general, I don't think anyone on this stage would say my overall experience has been negative or harder because of my gender. It's just different. It's just a different experience. It's unfortunate that she doesn't have that same experience in sports, which is what she's passionate about, because I've never experienced that.
I mean, I hope that your friend stays strong and like, you know, gets through it, because, you know, that is a really terrible experience. And I mean, so I was a tomboy growing up. I don't know if any of you guys were too, but I used to play a lot of sports and play with a lot of guys, and I don't know, I feel like they were always really cool with me. Like I didn't really have that much of a problem, you know, interacting with guys. I've always had more guy friends, things like that. But I'm sorry, that's terrible. I hope that she gets through that, and I think that, you know,
she can come game with us.
Yeah, tell her to come play Overwatch with us.
Well, I hope that maybe she can lead by example and maybe show these guys that it is no different, that she's a girl. If they will let her back in, then she can really prove herself. She shouldn't have to prove herself, but in this scenario, clearly she has to, and then maybe she can change their views on it, and actually they'll be more accepting, and that would be better for everyone. But I just hope she manages to do that.
Yeah. There's a question right here, the blue hair. Hi. So Meg coming your way. Or, right here, there you go.
What was your first encounter with this discrimination in gaming for your gender?
I don't think I've experienced any like discrimination. For me, it's all been positive.
I mean, I think you get the random, like she was saying, like when you play like Call of Duty or whatever, and people will be like, "Oh, you're a girl," but I don't think I've ever faced discrimination in that it's held me back.
Yeah, because
like it's prevented me from doing something. I mean,
I think, okay, I remembered, I used to go to LANs. This was before computers were in your house. I used to go
Taking
to
it back.
play, yeah. I would go with my brother, and we would go play at LANs, and they would see, it was full of dudes. Like, I think I was the only girl in there. And they would, in game, be like, I would, you know, do really good at the game. I would kill them, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's the girl." Like, so it's just as long as you kind of like, it's kind of sad to say, but if you prove yourself, I think you'll be accepted to play with them. And this goes back to your friend Olivia. She should challenge them. You know, I would have challenged them and been like, "Play me one-on-one then. What's the deal?" You know?
1v1 me, bro.
1v1 bro.
There's a girl with pink hair right there. Yes. I love the multitude of colors of hair here. This is wonderful. Rocking it up here as well. Very nice.
I have gray.
That's a color.
Yeah.
That's color.
It's a color. Yeah.
Silver.
Hi.
How do you feel about how female characters are often represented in games? Like they often have like perfect bodies. They're just all around beautiful, few flaws.
I think it's, for a lot of male characters, it's kind of the same. You know, they all have like rippling muscles and crazy,
not that many guys
bodies.
look like that.
So I think it's more of a question of not just how females are presented, but how males and females are presented as like perfect versions. And I think that might just be because that's how everyone imagines that they want to be. And when you game, you kind of immerse yourself into a game where you can do what you want and you can be what you want, and most people want to be perfect. I mean, I would love to see more characters that are more realistic, of course, but I think it's not just females, and it is a problem that we need to address.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's one of the things that, going back to Overwatch, the Overwatch has done really well, is that there's literally a character for every type of like race and body type and whatever. Like you've got like the big hulky dudes, and then you have kind of like the average guy, and then you have bigger guys. And you have same thing for girls. You've got husky girls and thin girls and tall girls.
I love Farah.
Yeah.
Oh, she's my girl.
Love
That's
her.
Tiffany.
Same.
We played Overwatch, and she was like, "I'm going to tell you right now, that's my girl."
Yeah.
I play Diva. Like, I mean, I think that it's more just looking at representing everything as a whole, than just sticking to one.
I agree, and I think like, as I was mentioning earlier, like there's so many games where you can like now customize like your body type, and you know, how thin or thick you are. Like I like that a lot because, you know, I'm not a twig by any measure of the word. So it's nice to be like, oh, I have curves. My character can have curves. Like, it's a really positive thing, and I think we're just going to see more and more of that, and that's going to be awesome. And you know, your character could have pink hair and like all of that, which would be really cool. I think I saw what it was you in the dress there, next to the unicorn.
It's a good landmark, next to the unicorn.
So I grew up playing with my brother and his friends as the little sister, and all the females were always dressed very inappropriately, and it made me feel super uncomfortable. And has that ever affected your guys' character choice when playing? Like how the character is dressed? Has that ever strayed you away from picking them?
Sometimes if they look super sexual, I'm like, okay, I don't want to like, that's not me. That's not how I want to make character to look. But they can still be kind of somewhat, and I wouldn't wear a skin tight bodysuit, but I play a character that wears a skin tight bodysuit. I think it hasn't really affected me too much. It might have changed maybe the way I customize characters. If I can choose an outfit that's less sexualized, then I will, but I don't know, if there's nothing else available, I never really think about it. I just kind of think there's the girl character. But then I guess that's a bad way of thinking, because that's how they always dress. They always look that sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two sides of that story, right? Like part of it is, yeah, like I wish that wasn't the ideal, right? Like I wish that wasn't setting the expectation of like, to be attractive, I should dress that way. But I also kind of feel like I would never wear something like that in real life. And so if I'm gonna play a wizard anyway, like why would I not represent myself in a way that I wouldn't feel comfortable or confident in real life, right? Like I can make my character look super freaking good, and like she can run around in a bikini all day long, because I'm sure as heck not gonna do that, right? So I think there's two sides of the story, right? If they give me the option to change that, that's appreciated, but there's sometimes where like I might still pick to do that because that's not me, and like she said, you're immersing yourself into a fantasy world, and I don't feel like a lot of the times when I walk into like a room of male gamers, they're gonna be like, well, why didn't she wear a bikini today? Like, I don't think that anybody expects that to be how I am as a person.
Yeah, I would agree. I like, one of my favorite games is like Street Fighter, and like, you know, I remember being very young when I first was like picking the character that I wanted to master, and I went with Ryu, which is not a female at all. But I remember when Sakura came out, I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's like female Ryu. Like I can use his moves on this like female character, and she's cute. She's like, you know, because Chun-Li's like the sexy one, and it was cool because I felt more cute than sexy, so it was like nice to have like that option. Yeah, I don't know. There's some more questions. Oh, way over there. Yeah. Well, green skirt, I think. Green skirt, right there. There you go.
Do you?
It was loud. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Do you think it's been easier to be on YouTube now or when you first started?
I feel like now it's a lot easier because the response that we get is overwhelmingly positive, because we have all these, you know, subscribers that have subscribed to us because they love our videos. But at the start, that wasn't the case. At the start, it was, you know, some people liked you, a lot of people hated you. So it's definitely better now once you built up that fans that love you than it was at the start, I think.
I agree. At the start, for me, this is when you couldn't make money on your own channel and you would submit to a network. I got accused, there was a comment that like sparked the whole thing for me when someone left a comment saying I used to do just vlogs, and they were like, she's not a real gamer, she doesn't post gameplay. But so I saw that comment and I was like, I'm gonna prove you wrong, like I am a gamer. And that's how I started my channel, just from like someone's negative comment gave me that. I'm a very competitive person, so I think being a gamer, just we're all very competitive, that like gave me the drive to be like, you know what, I'm gonna post gameplay on the channel, so turn it around.
When I first started, Tiffany's never heard this story, so I'm interested to see her reaction. When I first started gaming, like Lizzie said, there weren't very many female gaming YouTubers at the time. There was maybe a handful of us who had really like grown our channels to be the big one, and Tiffany was the biggest. And when I first started live streaming, I would get people coming all the time, are you iHas Cupquake? I don't look like Tiffany at all. But the thing was is that I was a girl, and they just assumed that I was Tiffany because I was a girl and I was gaming. It would happen to me it happened at least 24 times. Where people would be like, are you iHas Cupquake? And I'm like, no, I'm not Tiffany. And that's how I found your channel, because people would come in and be like, are you Cupquake? I was like, I gotta know who this does she look like me? And I saw it, I was like, how are they confusing us? But it's just because we're girls, and at the time, there weren't girls. And so I think now it's a lot easier, because now they're not gonna confuse you for like another girl just because you are one. Like now it's like, oh cool, you do a gameplay video, awesome, welcome.
It's true. So we have 5 minutes left, so I think we could fit in maybe like one more question. God, what? I don't know who to choose. The hard one.
I'm glad she's doing this and not me. I couldn't.
It's like heartbreaking.
In the back, yellow shirt.
There you go. Right there.
You had to make a choice.
How do you feel about there being less female main character roles in video games?
I would be interested in hearing your perspective. Like, have you ever, like Lara Croft is one of the few games where you have to play as a girl. Like, have you ever been like, oh man, I had to play as a girl?
I don't think I ever regretted it. I mean, I think one of the, if you tell, so there's a good example of this. There's a show on Netflix I really like a lot, Aziz Ansari's show. He's an Indian American comedian, has an excellent show on YouTube, and they won a bunch of Emmys. And one of his co-writers, when they gave the response, he was like, "Thank you to all of the like straight white dudes who have dominated media for so long that makes anything a little bit different seem exotic and interesting," right? And I feel like it's the same thing with games. Like, if we have the same Marcus Phoenixes and Nathan Drakes and those characters over and over again, there's nothing wrong with those characters, but it means that there's like a whole world of stories that you're not going to get. Like the woman who Lara Croft is because she is a woman, the way, or Faith in Mirror's Edge, like those are different stories because the characters are different. So I think for me, the fact that it bothers me because it means there are all these experiences out there that I'm not going to ever really get to play. And that's like why I play games, because it gets to give me an insight into experiences that I can't have in real life. So if we're just telling the same stories over and over again, it means there's this whole range of human experience that I, as a guy, don't ever really get to experience and ultimately get to enjoy. That's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, okay, we could do like one more question maybe. I don't know if the mic got... Oh, it's because I said we could do one more question. That's what happened.
I just died a little. Just now.
How about you with all the wristbands right there in the aisle? Yes, yes.
I like that she held them out. She's like.
So let's say that maybe you're playing an online game and it's just you and another person. Maybe let's say they're a male, and basically you're playing and it's just you two and another person, and they say, you know, oh, do whatever, I'll take them, you can't do it anyways. What's your first initial reaction?
I want to beat that person.
Yeah.
I just want to win so badly. But then the problem is, even if you do win, they'll say something like, well, you're pretty good for a girl. And it's like, it has nothing to do with me being a girl. I'm just pretty good. Although that's not many games. That's no games, actually.
I don't have those experiences very much because I tend to only play games with people that are my friends.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's occasionally where you'll get into a match where it's, you know, 3 of your friends and then 3 people you don't know. But I don't know. Typically, I just mute those people and I'm like, you're dumb. Bye.
Yep, tune them out.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all the time that we have. So why don't we just go down the line, tell people where they can find you, do your plug, start with you.
You can find me on YouTube at iHas Cupquake.
LD Shadow Lady, everywhere. YouTube, Twitter,
Instagram,
Facebook,
Twitter,
whatever.
You can find me on Twitter at Nehalia.
Yeah, on Twitter at JaminWar or killscreen.com.
Same, YouTube, Twitter, everything is just at Aurelian.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being on. Let's give everyone a round of
Thank you for
applause.
coming.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming.